Let us start with the transfer story that has quietly been building behind the scenes. Harvey Elliott, a 23-year-old Liverpool midfielder who spent last season on loan at Aston Villa. And now his future is pointing firmly away from Anfield. The situation is straightforward. Liverpool are targeting Elliott-Diamande, a 19-year-old prospect at RB Leipzig whose valuation sits at 100 million euros. That is a significant fee, and the way Liverpool are looking to structure this deal is by using Harvey Elliott as part of the package. RB Leipzig have been long-term admirers of Elliott. That interest first emerged last summer before his move to Aston Villa was confirmed. Now that same interest is being used as transfer leverage by Liverpool. The Reds could offer Elliott as a make-weight in negotiations, effectively reducing the cash component of the Diamande deal. Now let me give you my analysis on this. This is smart transfer business if it works. Elliott has value. Leipzig want him. Liverpool need Diamande. Using a player as currency in a deal of this size is not unusual, but it requires both clubs to agree on valuations. The fact that this has been reported as a genuine possibility tells us that conversations between the clubs are already at a stage where real structures are being discussed. This is not just speculation, this has substance. Here is what is really at stake with this Elliott and Diamande situation. Liverpool are rebuilding, Mohamed Salah is leaving, Trent Alexander Arnold is already gone. The squad needs fresh energy and new quality. Diamande at 19 years old represents exactly the kind of future investment Liverpool have always made, well under the right conditions. But 100 million euros is a serious number. Using Elliott to reduce that figure is not just smart, it is necessary. And here is the deeper point. If Liverpool fail to bring in a profile like Diamande this summer, or someone of similar quality, the gap left by outgoing players becomes very difficult to fill with just cash purchases. The squad depth question becomes a real problem. Before I go further, if you want this level of detailed analysis on every Liverpool story as it develops, hit that subscribe button right now. Victor Liverpool Analyst breaks down every angle so you always have the full picture. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Harvey Elliott and Elliott-Diamande. What was written? Liverpool could use Harvey Elliott as a make-weight in the deal for Elliott-Diamande, who is 19 years old. His valuation is around 100 million euros. RB Leipzig have been long-term admirers of the 23-year-old Elliott. My analysis. The word make-weight here is important. It does not mean Elliott is being discarded carelessly. It means Liverpool see an opportunity to turn one asset into another asset of greater long-term value. Elliott at 23 has shown quality and flashes, but has never fully nailed down a consistent starting role at Liverpool. Diamande at 19 is a different kind of prospect. He is unproven at the highest level, but carries a valuation that reflects enormous potential. Leipzig pricing him at 100 million euros tells you how highly rated he is in European football. Liverpool are trying to be clever here. They want to acquire a future star without paying the full cash price. The use of Elliott makes that possible. Watch this one closely because it could define Liverpool's attacking options for the next decade. Trent Alexander Arnold talking about Salah, what was written. Trent Alexander Arnold spoke to Sky Sports about Salah, describing how Salah loves fine dining at upscale restaurants with 18-course meals. Trent used to joke that the food portions were too small and told Salah the food was not real. After Liverpool won the league, Salah convinced Trent to join him for a farewell dinner in Dubai. Trent ended up having about 12 plates and genuinely enjoyed it. My analysis. This might seem like a light-hearted story, and on the surface it is, but look at what it reveals underneath. The relationship between Trent Alexander-Arnold and Mohamed Salah was deep, genuine, and built on years of shared victories and honest banter. Trent has now left Liverpool. Salah is about to leave, and the fact that Trent is sharing this story publicly tells you he is already in a reflective, nostalgic space about his time at the club. This is two teammates who changed Liverpool forever, and their bond clearly went well beyond football. The Dubai dinner story is charming, but the real story is what it represents. An era ending between two of the greatest players this club has ever seen. ESPN UK, an extended McAllister quote. Frimpong, Isak and the gym argument. What was written? Alexis McAllister had to step in as peacemaker after Jeremy Frimpong and Alexander Isak began arguing over gym equipment during training. McAllister described being caught completely off guard. He said at first it was genuinely hilarious watching two professionals argue like children over whose turn it was. But the voices started getting louder and the competitive pride kicked in. He realized it was going to escalate into something serious if nobody intervened. He stepped in, pulled them apart, and reminded them they have enough battles on the pitch trying to qualify for the Champions League without starting one over a set of weights. My analysis: on the surface, this is an amusing story. Two high-level footballers bickering in the gym. But I want you to think about what this actually tells us about Liverpool's dressing room culture right now. First, it confirms that Frimpong and Isak are both embedded in the first-team environment. These are not fringe players. They are key figures in Liverpool's current squad. Second, the fact that Mac Allister stepped in and used the Champions League qualification as his argument reveals something important. That pressure is real inside the training ground. These players feel the weight of finishing in the top positions. It is not just a media conversation, it is part of daily life at the club. Third, and perhaps most importantly, Mac Allister's willingness to play peacemaker in a situation like this tells us about his leadership qualities. Liverpool need players who can manage the human side of a squad, not just the football side. Mac Allister showing that instinct is a very positive sign for the club's internal leadership structure. Mohamed Salah on club standards after his departure. What was written: Salah spoke to Sky Sports about his concerns for the club after he leaves. He said he always tells Dominic Szoboszlai that if you win the Premier League every year, you take nothing away from him. He wants the guys to succeed and wants the club to be there. He spoke to members of staff and players upstairs, telling them that when he leaves, there needs to be an example for others. He emphasized the importance of coming to the gym early. He said people need to see someone doing it and feel motivated to do the same. He described this as something very necessary and said he is worried the standard might drop after he leaves. My analysis: this is one of the most revealing things Salah has said publicly during this farewell period. What he is describing is not just gym attendance. He is describing the invisible infrastructure of a winning culture. The idea that elite standards are maintained not through rules but through role models. When the person who sets that standard leaves, there is a genuine vacuum. Salah is openly acknowledging that he has been that person. He is not saying it arrogantly. He is saying it with real concern. He believes Liverpool's continued success depends on someone filling that leadership role from a cultural standpoint. That is a challenge the club must take seriously. Finding a player who scores goals is one thing. Finding a player who changes the culture of a training ground every single morning is another thing entirely. Salah is warning Liverpool that this second challenge may be harder than the first. Salah reveals he cried when Trent left. What was written? Mohamed Salah said publicly that the only time he cried over a person leaving the club was when Trent Alexander Arnold departed. My analysis: let me put this in full context. Mohamed Salah has been at Liverpool since 2017. He has seen players come and go throughout that time. Big names, important figures, people who shared trophies with him. And in all of that time, the only departure that brought him to tears was Trent Alexander Arnold. That is a statement of extraordinary emotional weight. It tells you that this relationship was different. It was not just a professional bond. It was something closer. Two players who grew together, who created history together, and who clearly formed a genuine personal connection over years of shared football. Salah shedding tears over Trent's exit also tells us something about how deeply Salah feels the end of this era. He is not just losing a teammate, he is losing a piece of what made Liverpool feel like home. This is a genuinely emotional farewell story, and it deserves to be understood in its full human terms. Arsenal and Liverpool leading the 2029 Club World Cup standings. What was written: Arsenal and Liverpool are currently the leading English clubs in the standings to qualify for the 2029 Club World Cup. This scenario stands only if no English side wins the Champions League between now and 2028. Source cited as BBC. My analysis: this is an interesting longer-term development that most Liverpool fans may not be fully aware of. The Club World Cup, in its expanded format, is becoming a genuinely significant competition. Qualifying through league performance over a sustained period adds another layer of prestige to consistent domestic success. Liverpool's position at the top of this standing alongside Arsenal reflects the quality they have shown over recent seasons. It is worth noting the condition attached to this. If any English club wins the Champions League in the coming years, the picture changes. So this is not a guaranteed qualification story. But it does confirm that Liverpool's sustained excellence is being recognised at the highest levels of global football administration. The club's ambition must include thinking about competitions like this as they plan their squad for the next several years. Bradley Barcola on Liverpool's winger shortlist. What was written? Liverpool are set to add Bradley Barcola to their winger shortlist. The right flank is described as a priority following Mohamed Salah's exit as a free agent. Barcola is 23 years old, French, and has 2 years remaining on his contract at Paris Saint-Germain. Source cited as The Times, my analysis. The right flank vacancy is the single biggest challenge Liverpool faced this summer. Salah has been one of the most productive wingers in Premier League history. Replacing that output is not simply a matter of finding a fast winger and buying them. It requires finding someone with the right profile, the right age, and the right potential to grow into that enormous responsibility. Barcola at 23 fits the age profile perfectly. He is at Paris Saint-Germain, which means he has been working in a high-pressure environment. With 2 years left on his deal, there is a window where Paris Saint-Germain may be willing to sell at the right price rather than risk losing him for free or at a reduced fee later. However, I want to be very clear with you. This is a rumour at this stage. Barcola is on a short list. He has not been signed. There has been no bid, no agreement. Liverpool are monitoring options and Barcola is one name being considered among others. Keep that in mind as this story develops. Oscar Piaczewski being monitored. What was written? Liverpool are in the race for Polish winger Oscar Piaczewski. He has recorded 5 goal contributions in 13 games since January. He has a €60 million release clause. Liverpool are watching him alongside Manchester City, Manchester United and Newcastle United, according to Portuguese newspaper Record. My analysis. This is a name that many Liverpool supporters may not be deeply familiar with yet, but the numbers demand attention. 5 goal contributions in 13 appearances since January is a very strong return for a young winger. The €60 million release clause creates a defined pathway for any interested club. It removes the complexity of protracted negotiations if a club decides to trigger it. The competition here is serious. Manchester City, Manchester United, and Newcastle are not clubs that pursue players carelessly. Their presence in this race tells you Piaczewski is generating genuine attention across English football. Again, I want to be clear. This is at monitoring stage. It is a rumour based on a report from a Portuguese newspaper. But it is a name worth following closely because the profile fits exactly what Liverpool need on the right side. Jan-Paul van Hecke from Brighton. What was written? Liverpool have made initial contact over a deal for Brighton defender Jan-Paul van Hecke as they explore a potential move. Arne Slot is described as a big admirer of him, having wanted him when Slot was at Feyenoord as well. Source cited as 6.nl, a Dutch outlet, my analysis. The Arne Slot connection here is significant and should not be overlooked. When a manager wants a player at 2 different clubs across 2 different phases of his career, that is not casual interest. That is a deeply held conviction about a player's qualities. Slot identified Van Hecke at Feyenoord. He clearly still rates him highly now at Liverpool. Brighton have developed a strong reputation for producing and developing elite defenders. Van Hecke fits within that tradition. Initial contact has been made. That means this is beyond mere speculation. Liverpool have reached out. The first steps of a potential transfer have begun. Whether it moves forward depends on fee, contract terms, and Brighton's willingness to sell. But the foundation has been laid, and Slot's persistent admiration for this player makes it a story with real credibility behind it. Daniel Svensson from Borussia Dortmund. What was written? Liverpool are targeting Borussia Dortmund left-back Daniel Svensson to strengthen their defensive options. He is 24 years old. His physicality and pressing style are seen as a perfect match for Arne Slot's system. The expected fee is approximately €35 million. Source cited as Fotballdaten. My analysis. The left-back position has been a point of ongoing discussion at Liverpool. Strengthening that area with a player specifically identified for his pressing ability and physicality tells you something important about how Slot wants to set up his team defensively. At 24 years old, Svensson would be at an ideal age to absorb the demands of Premier League football and develop further. €35 million is a manageable fee for a club of Liverpool's resources. If the profile genuinely matches what Slot needs, this represents sensible, targeted business. Again, this is being reported as a target at this point, not a completed deal. The Reds are pursuing this option, but nothing has been confirmed. Watch this space as the summer window approaches. Adam Wharton from Crystal Palace. What was written? Although Adam Wharton is on Real Madrid's radar this summer, Liverpool are understood to be the frontrunners in the race to sign the Crystal Palace midfielder. He is 22 years old and wants to stay in the Premier League, which gives Liverpool a significant advantage in negotiations. Source cited as Marca, my analysis. The Wharton situation is one where Liverpool's position is genuinely strong. When a player's own preference aligns with your club's ambitions, the transfer becomes significantly simpler to complete. Wharton at 22 is young, Premier League proven, and has shown enough quality at Crystal Palace to attract attention from one of the biggest clubs in the world in Real Madrid. The fact that he wants to stay in England and that Liverpool are identified as frontrunners puts the Reds in a powerful negotiating position. Real Madrid's interest adds external pressure but also confirms the player's quality. Liverpool need midfield depth and creativity. Wharton fits within that need. This is a rumour at this point, but one with genuine substance behind it, given the clarity about Liverpool's frontrunner status and the player's own stated preference. Liverpool must sign a fast right winger. What was written, Liverpool must prioritise signing a fast right winger this summer to replace Mohamed Salah. The goal is to find a player who can stretch defences and provide a steady supply line for Alexander Isak and Florian Wirtz. Source cited as Paul Joyce. My analysis. This confirmation from a respected journalist like Paul Joyce adds real weight to what many fans already suspected. The right winger recruitment is not just a nice to have. It is described here as a must. The specific brief is also revealing. The player needs to stretch defences and create for Isak and Wirtz. That means pace is essential. But it also means footballing intelligence is required. Creating chances for two players of that calibre demands more than just running in behind. It demands decision-making, crossing quality, and the ability to operate in tight spaces. This is a detailed brief, and it explains why Liverpool are looking at multiple names simultaneously. Barcola, Pietraszewski, and others may all fit different parts of this profile. Liverpool are casting a wide net because they know the stakes. Getting this signing right is arguably the most important piece of business they will do this entire summer. Liverpool.com, Harvey Elliott, Salah, and the Jordan Henderson farewell. The situation around Mohamed Salah this week carries a number of layers that deserve careful attention. He sustained a muscle injury during Liverpool's 3-1 victory over Crystal Palace last week. The concern that followed was genuine. There was a real possibility that he had already played his last game in a Liverpool shirt. The club has since confirmed he is expected to return before the season ends. But that return will not come in time for the trip to Manchester United on Sunday. He will miss what could have been an emotional final appearance at Old Trafford. Now here is where Salah's words carry the most weight this week. He has called publicly for Liverpool and their supporters to give Jordan Henderson a proper farewell when Brentford visit Anfield on the 24th of May. Henderson served as Liverpool captain for 12 years. He was central to the greatest period in the club's modern history. When he left for Al-Ittifaq in the Saudi Pro League in 2023, there was no send-off, no ceremony, no final moment at Anfield. He simply left. Salah has now said clearly that Henderson deserves something special. He described Henderson as someone without whom the achievements of that era would not have been possible. He spoke about the dressing room reality, what Henderson contributed beyond what the public ever fully saw. Salah's words on this carry enormous moral authority. He has been there. He lived through those years. When he says Henderson's contribution was priceless, that is not sentiment. That is a first-hand testimony. The Harvey Elliott thread of this story connects back to the Diamande transfer analysis I covered earlier. What adds an extra dimension here is Jurgen Klopp's personal admission that not giving Elliott enough game time in his final season at Liverpool was one of his biggest regrets. Now Klopp, operating as Red Bull's head of global football, is in a position where his new role and Liverpool's transfer needs may align perfectly. If Elliott moves to Leipzig as part of a Diamande deal, Klopp can feel he has in some small way addressed that regret. Elliott gets regular football at a top European club. Liverpool get a generational talent in Diamande. Everyone benefits. This is the kind of transfer story where the human element and the football logic both point in the same direction. Give me sport. The truth about Klopp and Real Madrid. This is the story that has attracted the widest attention beyond the Liverpool supporter base, and I want to give it the analytical treatment it deserves. Real Madrid sacked Xabi Alonso in January. Alvaro Arbeloa, a former Liverpool teammate of Alonso, was placed in interim charge after stepping up from the Real Madrid Castilla reserve team. The expectation from the beginning was that Arbeloa would hold the position temporarily while the club identified a permanent appointment for the summer. The situation is that Real Madrid are likely to finish this season without a major trophy for the first time in 5 years. They sit 14 points behind Barcelona in La Liga with only 5 games remaining. This is a club under genuine pressure to restore its identity. The appointment of a new manager is perhaps the most consequential decision they will make. Now, several names have been linked, but the clearest picture that emerges is this. Florentino Perez, Real Madrid's president, has a personal preference. That preference is Jose Mourinho, currently managing Benfica. Perez himself has reportedly been the driving force behind efforts to bring Mourinho back to the Bernabeu. Senior correspondent Ben Jacobs confirmed that if Perez gets his way, there is a concrete chance this happens. Where does Jurgen Klopp fit into this picture? The evidence suggests he is a secondary option rather than a primary target. Klopp has received consistent admiration from the Real Madrid hierarchy over the years. That admiration is genuine and long-standing. But the practical reality is that Klopp himself has repeatedly expressed uncertainty about whether he will return to club management at all. He is now operating as Red Bull's head of global football, a role he signed a 4-year contract for in January 2025. He has publicly stated that this role gives him a better work-life balance. One of the key reasons Klopp left Liverpool was the exhaustion that comes with elite club management. And there is no greater pressure environment in world football than Real Madrid. The idea that Klopp would voluntarily step back into that level of intensity after specifically leaving to escape it requires a significant shift in his current thinking. Mauricio Pochettino is also being discussed internally at Real Madrid. He is currently a free agent after his role with the United States national team during the World Cup ended. He has supporters within the club's structure. But again, the message from Jacobs is consistent. Perez has made his number one choice clear. That choice is Mourinho. My final analysis on this: the Klopp to Real Madrid story is interesting because it involves real admiration on one side, but admiration does not equal appointment. The evidence points clearly toward Mourinho as the likeliest outcome, with Klopp sitting further down the list and showing little personal motivation to pursue it. If Mourinho falls through for any reason, the picture changes. But as things stand, Klopp appears more content in his current role than he does tempted by the world's biggest club job. Closing summary. Let me bring everything together for you now, because what we have covered today is not just a collection of separate stories. It is a portrait of Liverpool at a critical moment. Mohamed Salah is leaving. His absence is already being felt, not just in what he scores, but in what he represents in terms of culture, standards, and leadership. The right-winger replacement is the most urgent transfer task the club faces. Names like Bradley Barcola, Oscar Pietaszewski, and others are being evaluated. All of them are at rumour stage right now. None of them have been confirmed. Liverpool are building a list, and they need to get this decision right. Defensively, Jan-Paul Van Hecke and Daniel Svensson are both being looked at from different angles. Van Hecke carries Arne Slot's personal stamp of approval. For Svensson fits the pressing profile Slot demands. In midfield, Adam Wharton represents a genuine opportunity. Liverpool are front-runners, and the player's own preference gives the Reds a clear advantage. The Harvey Elliott and Elliott-Diamande deal is the most structurally interesting transfer story of the moment. It combines Klopp's personal history, Liverpool's tactical future, and smart financial thinking into one potential move. Jordan Henderson deserves his farewell. Salah has made that case publicly and passionately, and his voice carries the authority of someone who shared the dressing room with Henderson through the greatest years in recent Liverpool history. And Jurgen Klopp at Real Madrid remains a story built more on admiration than reality. Mourinho appears to be Perez's clear first choice, and Klopp himself has shown limited desire to return to club management. This is Liverpool in May 2026. A club transitioning, building and navigating the emotional weight of saying goodbye to an era while preparing to build the next one. Thank you for watching Victor Liverpool Analyst. If this kind of deep, structured, accurate analysis is what you want more of, subscribe right now. Every major Liverpool story broken down properly with no noise and no exaggeration. Just the full picture. Subscribe, leave a comment below telling me which transfer target you think Liverpool should prioritise this summer, and I will see you in the next video.